Hey guys, DansGaming here. Welcome to Dan's Chats, where we just talk about random topics and I chat with you guys below. So if you leave comments down there and I'll respond to some of them and have a nice little discussion. Today I want to talk about what makes a good horror game. It's really, really, really hard to make a very scary game that will terrify me. And it's very, very, very easy to make games that are low-hanging fruit with scares. Okay, let's go over what makes a bad horror game first. A bad horror game is where you're just walking around, doing some random task and then randomly very loud noises or things pop up in your way and startle you. The jump scare. The jump scare is a low-hanging fruit that's easy to pull off but really hard to make you like think about it or remember it for a long time because it's not really scaring you, it's startling you, which are two different things. And like most people confuse startle and scare as being the same thing. They can be overlapping, but let's just say you're in the kitchen, you're doing something, you're not paying attention, and then you turn around, someone's standing there and it just startles you and you're like, like they weren't trying to scare you. There was nothing in the situation to make you afraid. You just got startled because there was something that wasn't before. That's easy to do, even if you're not intending to do it. And that's unfortunately what a lot of developers seem to think that horror is just jump scares. And, they're fun. They have their place. Jump scares are good. And I think every horror game and movie, for that example, can pepper good jump scares throughout the movie or the game. But what's truly terrifying is true fear and terror that a very well-crafted horror game can pull off like no other. A great example of a horror game that pulls off scares well is Visage, where it's not what you see, it's what you hear and anticipate. You can hear a sound around the corner, but you don't know what it is. It could be anything. Your brain fills in something frightening, and whatever you're thinking up here will be infinitely more frightening than whatever you will actually see later. Our brains fill in the gaps and make us even more terrified. You hear a noise, you see something move in the corner of your eye, like those kind of things that really build up anticipation and fear, trepidation. You don't want to go ahead because you know something's going to happen, but you're not really sure what or who or if it will even happen, but yet you're worried that it will. That's fear. Fear is hard to pull off well, and Visage is a game that does it very well. Another thing that's, I think, really good in horror games is sound. Like, sound is, I think, the most important component in any horror game. It is more important than in most games because the things you hear can be more terrifying than anything that a person could actually render with graphics. Because a sound, as I said earlier, a scratch in the wall, like footsteps, skittering, where you can't see it, and your mind will fill in what it thinks it could be. And that's always because your brain will find something that you're terrified and put that in there. That is good horror. A great example of a game that uses sound extremely well, because the graphics are nice, but they're not like photorealistic like Visage, is a game called Darkwood. Darkwood is a top-down. You're looking like, imagine a camera was pointing at the top of my head and looking down at my body, just saw my shoulders and my head. It's that perspective, and that game uses sound so beautifully to create unsettling feelings where you don't know what is out there, but you can hear these grotesque, nasty things. And when you finally see the things, they are scary, but I think the sound and anticipation of what it was way even more scary. Good sound can turn an average horror game into an amazing one. Bad sound effects can turn a good horror game into a mediocre one. Sound is extremely important, and like if that's the one thing you're going to focus on a developer focuses on, I would want it to be sound because it's so essential to making good horror. Another thing that there are two types of horror games that are both good, but they're hard to pull off. One is horror games with no like actual gameplay, just hiding and like walking forward, opening doors. Like it's not like it's more of a walking simulator and doing minor tasks than gathering ammunition and aiming and firing and leveling up and gathering stuff. Like it's really, really, really difficult to make a horror game that's fun. Horror in itself isn't really designed to be fun. It's designed to terrify and scare you, which it's hard to combine fun with scare. But, you know, like haunted houses can be fun for some people, but you go in there to be scared, and people do find being scared fun, but it's hard to make the act beyond the scare fun. I think Resident Evil does a pretty decent job, the remakes and the newest and 7, at mixing gameplay and horror to still be scary while still having weapons and stuff. It's hard to pull off. Silent Hill is a game that kind of has mediocre combat, but it doesn't get in the way too much of the scare factor and the dreadful atmosphere. It's really difficult to make a good, fun horror game. Most tend to resort to puzzles to stop you from moving and hiding from monsters like Outlast does. Outlast, you solve puzzles by gathering items, gathering information around the place, and then something is chasing you down or looking for you. Alien Isolation does that too. It's hard to make that being chased scary, but also fun to solve the puzzles without being annoying, because it's easy to get annoyed if the monster is just always on your ass, never gives you a chance to solve the puzzle. So it's real difficult to find the right balance there, and some do it very well. Alien Isolation was that game was just too long, but Alien Isolation had some good like puzzle solving, finding items while hiding and still having a little bit of weaponry to deal with, to push them away for at least a few minutes to give you some breathing room. But it still kept that, like, did it just enough to where the alien was always close enough to keep you on your edge, but you could still get your objectives done. Depending on your difficulty, you have more time or less. I also think that the shorter a horror game is, the better it can be for scaring. I think a good between 4 to 8 hours is like the perfect amount of time for a horror game, because it's really hard to keep coming up with new ways to keep someone scared, because eventually a person was going to get used to, like in Dead Space, coming out of the vents. Like you see a vent, you get used to it. It's going to happen. You see a body on the floor, it's going to stand up and jump at you. Like you start getting used to those things, and it's not so unpredictable and startling anymore. And you start getting used to the environment. You see the same level design again and again. It's hard to keep it fresh for longer than 4 to 8 hours. Alien Isolation was about 14 to 17 hours, so it was just like starting to get tedious at the end there. I think about 48 hours is like your goal length if you're going to make like a full-fledged horror game. Another thing, I don't think multiplayer and horror mix well for too long. It can, like Phasmophobia is pretty good. Left 4 Dead is pretty good, but eventually those become a little less scary over time, and you're with the comfort of your friends. But it can be done, but it's hard to do well. Hard to be both scary and involve friends and have teamwork and stuff. But I was saying, what do you guys think makes a good horror game, and what are some of your favorites? What are some of the ones that you think checked all the boxes or some of the boxes and really made a good experience for you? I'm curious what your favorites are. Let me know in the comment section. The more obscure, the more obscure, the better, and I'll check them out. And if it's something I haven't heard of, I'll maybe look it up and maybe play it sometime for you guys. Again, I'm DansGaming. Thank you for hanging out and joining our dance chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Don't forget to check out my live streams at twitch.tv/DansGaming if you want more live content. And thank you guys for watching.